And away we go. It is another nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com. It is, what is it, Monday?
All day.
Monday, May 23rd, I think. I don't
Accurate.
know. I think that's what it is.
It's in the bottom corner of your screen.
That's what I was looking at. You can't see it because it's just small down there. And my eyes aren't great because I'm getting old. This show, as always, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. And download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Make sure you get out to Galactic Fried Chicken down in Dayton. Tell them to pump it up and save yourself 15% off of an order. And it's summer. They got the patio up. The chicken sandwich is back. The little baller is back. How can you not love the little baller? It's a chicken sandwich, fries, and a PBR for like $11. How do you get any better than that? It's the number 2 chicken sandwich in the city. So make sure you get down and get involved. All right, let's get to this. We just finished an amazing 2.5 hours with Mr. Bearcat Ryan Royer, and we're following it up with the return of the 2020 Ohio Sports Writer of the Year. None other than our great friend, Justin Williams. We haven't talked to Justin since draft night, and really all we talked about draft night was minivans.
His van, yeah.
And children. So it's good to see
Still
Justin
pimping.
back in the mix. Still pimping. Still dealing with 3 daughters.
Yes.
Still dealing with the middle
dealing
one.
even more. Yeah, dealing even more with 3 daughters.
Yeah, because now the infant is starting to get a little personality, right? Like she's growing out of the infant stage a little bit at least. And
yeah, so
how has she been? How's she been?
She's almost 2 months, and she has some good nights where she'll give you some nicer stretches of sleep, and then she'll cruelly snatch those away the next night, so you don't get comfortable.
Can't wait.
And that's what we're dealing with. That's what you have to look forward to, Aaron. But no matter what, whether she sleeps great or she sleeps terribly, those other 2 terrors are just waiting for you first thing, crack of dawn in the morning. They're always consistent. Yeah, they're always consistent. It's been great.
Well, Justin, you dropped a banger of a story today about, and here's the thing. So you can go to The Athletic, subscribe. Are you guys running a deal right now? Like, do your sales pitch right now to get people.
I'm sure we are running a deal. If you're paying full price for The Athletic, thank you, but you probably don't have to. But yeah, go to theathletic.com.
I'm still paying full price for The Athletic. I'm paying full price for The Athletic.
Same. Well, now you are.
Out of respect to you. Yeah.
I think I pay double for BCJ.
I charge you twice. I charge you
that's
twice.
just to keep Aaron above water.
I got a kid on the way, bro.
But please, if you haven't subscribed to The Athletic, I think you'll like it.
And for this story alone, it's more than worth the price of admission. Gino Guidugli, a great feature, an in-depth feature on Gino, and you probably. It was what, 4,000 words? It's lengthy. Brent Young
over 4. Yeah.
Brent Young was like he teared up this morning when he was reading your article. Like he felt like he inspired you when it came to
my editor's
this.
blood pressure spiked when I sent him the first draft. He was a little uneasy, but yeah, it's a long
every
one
week
for sure.
Every time Brent do an article. But you probably could have gone 8,000 words on this because he's a fascinating human. His story is amazing. And if you really look at it, there's so many connections to the start of what this run has meant for UC football over the past 20 years. How much of it is connected to Gino Guidugli picking Cincinnati, and now how much of it is connected to Gino Guidugli coming back and becoming a coach at Cincinnati. It had to be amazing to write. Yeah,
and I mean, to your first point, like Gino should be a book, and I'm sure he will be one day. Like you could easily write a Gino Guidugli book. It's over 4,000 words, and I have so much stuff just in the reporting I did that I couldn't get to. Like I couldn't get in there. Stuff about like when he was at Highlands, playing behind Jaron Lorenzen in the first couple years.
Yeah.
The hefty lefty.
Stuff when he was like living out of hotels, playing in the Arena League. Just a lot of stuff that it didn't make total sense for this story, and I had to, find some ways to cut it down somewhere. But no, he just has a very interesting life, and anyone who's ever talked to Gino, like does a great job of telling you about it. Like he's a great quote. He's a great storyteller. So definitely true. But you're right. It made sense to do this story now for a couple reasons. He got the official bump up to offensive coordinator this offseason. He's now entering year 6. Like I think he's the only one of the on-field assistants, right, who is from that original staff.
Yeah, he's the last one.
Like Brady's been there, and there's been some other people around the program who have been there. But in terms of on-field assistants, he's the last one, and he was the last one to join, right? Like you would remember better than I would, but I think he was hired February, and I believe he was the last staff addition for that 2017 season.
So they made a different hire at running back coach, and that, for a lot of reasons, flamed out. But we won't get into that.
Right.
And as you wrote in the story so eloquently, as you are prone to do, Luke called him about somebody else that was at Central Michigan.
Yeah, he was calling about another assistant.
Yeah, and Gino made such an impression on Luke in that conversation that when it was time to come back around, there was an instant connection. But as you wrote, Gino was pissed when he got a call from Luke Fickell, and it wasn't about coming to Cincinnati to be an assistant coach initially.
Right. So Gino had told me this a couple of years ago, like when Luke got the job, he called Mark D'Antonio, who he had for a season, his senior year, and was like, put in a good word for me with Luke. Mark D'Antonio did that. And Luke said, like, he knew Gino's name. He knew he played quarterback, but Mike Denbrock was quarterback's coach. He's like, I don't need a quarterback's coach. So actually, again, like a little thing that just couldn't fit in the story. The first time Luke called Gino, he got his voicemail, and it said, this is Gino Guidugli, running backs coach at Central Michigan. And Luke was like, I didn't know he was a running backs coach. So even before they talked, he's like, okay, there's something I don't know. Then they talk for 10 minutes about somebody else. Gino, when Luke didn't say that when he left the message. Gino thinks, I'm calling Luke Fickell. I'm going to get a job at Cincinnati. It's all happening. Instead, Luke started talking about a defensive backs coach at Central Michigan. Gino's pissed off for 10 minutes, but he's Gino. He's, just giving Gino quotes. And Luke in the back of his mind's like, I like this guy. He's a straight shooter. And a month later, running back's job opens up. And at least the way Luke told it to me now, maybe it was more involved at the time, but he was just like, I'm hiring Gino. Like that was the 10-minute interview of him talking about somebody else was enough for me.
At the time, they were looking for more ties to the program because I think Luke felt that I'm not connected enough here. And we've seen that play out with eventually Mickens and Armand Benz and now Walt Stewart. Like Luke has had an incredible understanding of having guys work here where it means something. And I think that's probably because how much Ohio State meant to him, right? Like,
sure, yeah.
He knew how important that was, and he knew he wanted to get that as a part of this. But you and I both know from dealing with Gino now, I think, 6 years for me, 5 years for you, because you came in 2018. There's no straighter shooter than Gino. Like, he's never going to bullshit you. He's going to have fun and joke around and laugh and be a really good human like he is. But when it gets down to it, like when there are things you want to talk about to him, he's going to talk about them, and you're not going to get the company line, right?
Correct.
There's some conversations we can't talk about that we've had with Gino over the years that we're like, oh.
Shocker.
Yeah, and because it's Devin Spalding, who was a GA, who I started off the story with, who played for Gino at CMU, described him as the easiest man to trust he's ever met.
Yeah.
And Gino's very trusting, but it's also one of those things. I hope I never find out, but I'm sure like if you burn him,
you're out.
You've probably burned him, and and he's not going to be so trusting. But yeah, he's just very straightforward and honest.
Let's remember, Newport, Kentucky was Vegas before Vegas. And Dave Guidugli, his dad, was very involved in that world. I'm not saying they're a mafia family. I'm just saying they were around a situation.
You're not saying it either.
Right. They were around. His dad was around in a time that, yeah.
Well, it's a little thing, but like it was during spring ball, right? It was me, you, and Mick Walker were standing there. It was after practice, and we were talking about something. And Gino's walking over after talking to recruits or players or whoever. And you're like, I'll just ask Gino. And Mick was like, well, he's not going to tell you. And you're like, yeah, he will. And he walked over and you asked him and he told you exactly what, and like, so that was Mick's little first insight into like, oh yeah, he's just everything everyone says about this guy. Total straight shooter. That's who he is. And that's what Fick got immediately his first conversation with him back in 2016, 2017.
And I think that question, and I think it's okay to talk about it, I don't think anybody's going to get mad at me, was legitimately, I like to ask coaches, is what I'm seeing real, right? I've asked that a million times to a million coaches because I'm not a coach. I'm not like, I've told people this a million times as well. When I started doing this, I was doing basketball pretty much exclusively. And I thought I knew basketball. Like I thought I knew basketball. And then I would sit with Hep Cronin and watch basketball practices. And I realized I didn't know shit. I didn't know anything. Like everything I thought, not only was everything I thought I knew wrong, but I also didn't know anything that was right. So it's become customary for me. Ask the guy that knows is what I'm seeing right. And I think that was asked about when Evan Prater really started turning it on throughout spring practices and really started to say, I'm not letting Ben Bryant just walk away with this job. And I asked Gino, and Gino's like, yeah, Evan's competing his ass off. We're getting exactly what we wanted out of Evan by bringing Ben in and having these two compete for the job. And that's just how Gino handles his business. Because he doesn't bullshit. It's very serious in terms of you're seeing. If I'm not seeing it right, he'll tell me, and if I am seeing it right, he'll tell me. And that's I would assume the same experience you've had with him.
Yeah, always. And that's why I thought this was interesting because going back to your original point, like, okay, it makes sense to do the story now. He's the OC, but you're right that his start with Cincinnati obviously goes back to when he came as a player, but that was so impactful for so many reasons. Just him showing up saying, okay, I'm picking Cincinnati. Hal Mumme gets fired. I'm not going to Kentucky. I'm going with Rick Minner. That
Notre Dame was all in on him too.
Oh yeah. Notre Dame, LSU, like that changed the trajectory of Cincinnati's football program in some small way, just him showing up. Then he becomes the, arguably the best. Desmond Ridder is the arguably in that sentence now, because before Desmond Ridder, Gino Guidugli was the best, hands down, quarterback ever at Cincinnati.
Greg Cook would have an argument.
Sure. So we'll go color TV era of.
And Tony Pike would argue. He would know he's wrong, but he would argue.
Sure.
So he becomes the conversation.
Yeah, he becomes the most decorated quarterback in Cincinnati football history and kind of leads them into then like that first period of D'Antonio, Big East when it really picked up. But that's the other reason I wanted to write it, and you guys know this well too. I bet there's a lot of legit diehard Bearcats football fans that never saw Gino play or weren't paying attention to the program when Gino was around. And so that was part of the story is like, this guy is a big deal. He means a lot, but here's why. People know his name's on the stadium. People know his name's in the record books, but it was a little bit more than that.
So, I mean, I guess when you talk about him being like such a straight shooter, then one of the big things that people have been talking about on Twitter and social media is the fact that he has said that he would sign a lifetime contract if offered. So, I mean, like, he's not bullshitting you or just saying that just for the fans when he says something like that.
No, I mean, I don't think so. And that was the other, the other kind of interesting part of this. And, I'm sure, Chad, you've heard this. Part of it is Gino says it, but also just you talk to people like this. Cincinnati's really special to him. The University of Cincinnati, it's very special to him. I think he felt like he made a decision to come here, to kind of blaze his own path and start something. and he did that, but also like the kind of the university embraced him too, and it allowed him to grow up and take his lumps and all that kind of stuff. So it's just it was home to him in a very special way, his time here. And so yeah, he was honest earlier in his career. I want to get back and coach at Cincinnati at some point. You know, his family's still here in Northern Kentucky. I'm sure that's part of it too. But this place is special to him. And so I think when he's had plenty of opportunities. He could have left in the last 5 years if he wanted to go somewhere else to be an OC or to a bigger program. And as Luke Fickell talked about in the story, he's made efforts to make sure that doesn't happen, but he could have gone other places and he hasn't yet. And we'll see. Luke also mentioned, like, sometimes you have to make the right decisions for your career. Like if a head coaching job would come up or something like that. But I don't think he's, we talked about Marcus Freeman not being in a hurry to leave or Luke Fickell not being in a hurry to leave. I think it's even an extra thing with Gino. Like if he can stay here as long as he can, I think there's a big part of him that would love that.
How much does this next step solidify that even more? Like if he takes over the offense and the offense has success and it becomes Gino Guidugli now next level offensive coordinator, I think everybody felt really comfortable that Marcus Freeman was the succession plan, right? Like Luke built this up over 4 years. Marcus was next. And then all of a sudden, Marcus is the head coach of fucking Notre Dame. It still doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But I think
that
it
succession
eases
plan is outdated now.
I think it eases a fan base's mind when they at least have a comfortability with, if something happens, we got our guy. And more, it's starting to feel like, Gino becomes passing game coordinator, then calls the plays, even though nobody told anybody that was happening until after the fact. I'm getting started on that. But now he becomes the offensive coordinator. Like this is the next step in Gino filling the Marcus Freeman role, right?
Yeah, and so a couple other things. He's an offensive coordinator in a Luke Fickell coach team. Luke's a defensive guy.
You run the offense.
He's getting the offense. It wasn't a surprise when Mike Cummings came in as offensive coordinator. You can even look back, like Denbrock had connections to Dan Enos too, but when Dan Enos comes in as a running back coach, I'm sure Gino's suggestion probably had a lot of weight in that. So that makes even more. Now you're going to the Big 12. You're not a Group of 5 offensive coordinator. You're a Power 5 offensive coordinator. So that matters too. And you talk about the fans, like if something, if Luke took one of those jobs and Marcus Freeman became head coach at Cincinnati, I think he would have been great. He might still be the head coach at Notre Dame right now. Like, Marcus Freeman was always just going to keep climbing.
Right.
I don't want to speak for him, but he basically said it. Like, if Gino becomes the next coach at some point at Cincinnati, however many years down the road, however it happens, like the thing fans have always dreamed about, the guy who literally wants to stay there for life, like that's Gino.
They're going to have to set him on fire and run him out of town.
Sounds like
I wouldn't recommend it, but I'm just saying, like, Gino would never want to leave. If he was the head coach of Cincinnati, that would be the end game.
And when I asked Luke about this, because I was like, look, I'm going to be careful here. You need to be careful here. No one wants you to leave. So don't make this as like we're setting this plan up. And he's like, no, I know exactly what you're saying. And he put it out there like, I just signed a contract. I'm here through 2028. I'm getting paid great money, whatever. But that doesn't mean that you can't kind of just look at it this way as this guy wants to be here. This place is special to him. We've kind of set him up to keep growing. He's going to be a head coach. Why not, one way or another, at some point or another, why can't it be here?
As a fan, like, how excited should you be about that, though? I mean, this is exactly what you are kind of alluded to it already, just what this fan base has craved, and having that, that solidarity of this guy is going nowhere. So, I mean, as you get excited about the move into the Big 12 and knowing that these pieces are in place for quite a long time, like, what does that do for the fan base?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives the fan base, a sense of security and stability. I think on the recruiting front, which, Gino is, he's a great recruiter. He's been a great recruiter. That's a huge part of his appeal. It's going to be a huge part of his appeal when he's a head coach. It's definitely a huge part of his success as an assistant coach. Well, his recruiting pitch as Cincinnati head coach, like what better possible recruiting pitch could you have, whether it's to local guys or just, players in general, like, oh, hey, you're a 4 or 5-star and you have offers everywhere. Cool. So did I. I came here, look at me
Right.
now. And we've talked about this with, talked this with DeMar Johnson. Like DeMar Johnson, played here a year and, he found a way to kind of like make this his home and come back here, and the fan base has embraced him. And now he dunks on Garth Brooks and doesn't even realize it. Like Gino is the ultimate example of that, right? Like he came here, he chose here, he played 4 years here, he came back here. It would mean something special for the fan base. It would mean something special for the university. It would mean something special for him. But even that's getting ahead of it. Like it doesn't even have to be a head coach. All that stuff is relevant now. All that stuff is true now. He sells it on the recruiting trail now because he believes it and because it's true. He gets buy-in from players, whether they're quarterbacks or whether it's Myjai Sanders or Jerome Ford or whoever. Like he's having a huge impact on this school as a coach now because of all those things. And it was funny talking to Enos, because I was talking about, Enos knew him as a player and a coach. And he said like he was a great college quarterback, like an incredible college quarterback. And Enos was just, without a doubt in his mind, he's a better coach than he was a college player. And like, he's only going to get better. He's 39. He's still young by coaching standards, and he's just had a lot of success. And it seems like that's not going to slow down.
Yeah. Recruiting ties down in like SEC country, like Florida and Georgia and what have you, don't hurt either.
Correct. And that's a credit to him. Like, I think the reason he got started there is because
Michigan, Florida, Georgia, like
he's all
when
over.
He was in Central Michigan, they just gave him like, all right, you have Georgia and North Florida. And, okay, Gino, a guy who, like Fickle said, he's been able to go into those places as a guy from Kentucky and convince kids to come to Cincinnati. Like that just shows you.
Golly.
You can speak to this, Justin. There's been a bunch of kids like in the transfer portal, as Cincinnati has kind of established this, like, we're not going to recruit the portal unless we have a connection. We're back in the beginning of this. It was like, oh, well, there's a connection because Gino Guidugli was his first offer at Cincinnati. Like it felt like almost every kid that popped up as a name of interest in the transfer portal had some connection to like Gino offered them when he was at Central Michigan before he came to Cincinnati. Jerome Ford, basically, like when he left Alabama, he wanted to play for Gino Guidugli, and that was it.
Yeah,
like,
I love the Jerome Ford story. Yeah. Like I just love that story because Gino was on him early. He was a kid who was like, there's a bunch of D1 players on that roster. Gino saw him, loved him. Cincinnati felt like they were in a good spot. He goes to some camp, I think at Alabama, and blows up, ends up going, and I believe he had a official schedule to Cincinnati, canceled it to go to Alabama, committed to Alabama. And then one time Gino was down, I think they're playing USF. He stops by his high school and his coach is like, not even saying like, don't screw around on this, but he's just like, you're wasting your time. He's going to Alabama. And Gino's like, that's cool. I just want to say what's up to him. And, that's one of many things I think that happened where you're right. Jerome Ford goes in the transfer portal. I think it was like Gino could have been at Cincinnati. He could have been anywhere. I think Jerome Ford's like, I'm going to play for Gino because that was a guy I had a connection with. I probably should have gone to him initially. I got my head turned for legitimate reasons, Alabama, and he's been that way with other guys. Myjai Sanders told me the same thing. Like from the moment, the first conversation he had with Gino, like he trusted him. Gino kind of was always a straight shooter with him. And, that's a guy who had opportunities to go plenty of other places too. But like he trusted Gino, who was not even his coaching on his side of the ball when he came here.
Right.
So how long did you end up speaking with Gino for all of this? And this is the reporter in me talking, like totally. And how long did it take you to transcribe everything?
He did it by phone with one finger over the past 2 months as he was doing dishes, feeding his infant, and wrangling a 4 and 2-year-old.
Yes. So
just curious how many hours went into it.
I don't even want to. I'd have to add it up. Like, I saw somebody today said something like, I think 10 people were quoted in the story, which I didn't count up, but I talked to more than that. Like there are some people I just couldn't even fit in the story. I talked to more than a dozen people, and some were for 30, 40 minutes, but some were for less than that. But you're just trying to talk to as many people as you can. Gino, it was over. Like we sat down in his office for over an hour, but then I also just had to follow up a couple things with him, just like, clarified, did I get this right? So who knows total time. The transcribing, the thing that saved me is I went out to Phoenix for like those meetings, and we had like an athletic work get together. So literally the entire flight there and back to Phoenix, I just transcribed like him and everybody else the entire time.
When you should have been sleeping.
I should have been, yeah, but I wasn't going to get it done here at the house. So no, it went. And that was kind of the cool thing is, again, like there's so much, to his story that's interesting that I couldn't even fit in, which just, it kind of just shows the career he's had and the life he's had, but how willing people were to talk about him. Like I didn't, put it in there, but at the end of the call, Mike Cummings is like, I love Gino. He's like, you can put that in there. I don't care. Like I love that guy. Like I wanted to come back to work for that guy. Just unabashed, loves him. And a lot of people, maybe not as forthright as Coach Cummings was, but basically everyone else said the same thing.
See, Chad, he could have been sleeping, but the awards don't win themselves.
Do you think I sleep?
No. I just wanted to get another poke at Justin being an award-winning writer that we all love dearly.
Former award-winning.
Former, yeah, that was 2020. He's trying to bring the heat again in 2022 to
living in the past,
climb back up the ranks. Just one more thing before we let you go, and you can hopefully maybe are dishes up next?
I'm hopefully going to bed after this, but okay. I don't want to jinx it, so we'll see.
Okay, good luck.
Dishes are done, but we'll see.
Okay. You knew the reputation of Gino when he got the job, or when you started covering him, that he was kind of a wild child, enjoyed the college life when he was here. How much were you like me? Were you shocked when you actually got to meet Coach Gino, and it was like this mild-mannered, calm, a little gray coming in at the time, Silver Fox. Like, wait a second, this is not, because I'm a Northern Kentucky kid. Like, and at the time I was covering Northern Kentucky sports. There were many Gino Guidugli stories of him enjoying himself as a young man. But then you got to know him a little bit, and you're like, man, like this dude's like, he's been around the block, but he's got his shit together, man. And there's a reason people are drawn to him.
Yeah, and you're right. Like he's a Northern Kentucky guy with a Southern accent, but he has like a little like California, just like laid back surfer dude in him. Just like, and that's just, he's a cool guy. If you didn't know Gino Guidugli, but you're like, oh, that guy was like a stud quarterback, somebody'd be like, yeah, I could totally he seems like he was a stud quarterback. Sure. He just kind of carries himself that way. He's a cool dude. But you're right. He, life humbles you. He got married. He had kids. I think the job and the profession really humbled him. It was hard for him to give up playing. He kept like hanging on and doing those arena leagues and Canadian leagues, all that kind of stuff. And then I think once he really dug into coaching, he realized like, all right, you have to grow up. You're sitting in living rooms with parents and telling them why their kids should go to college. Like, you have to be an adult. And then the other thing, and this is something I heard a lot and was something I wanted to get at in the story, was everyone always said like, Gino's really smart. And he has this reputation as, quarterback, gunslinger, maybe lived it up a little bit as a kid, but he was always a smart kid. But what kind of was interesting about when I was reporting it is like, that's one of his coaching superpowers. Like, everyone always said he's very smart, but his ability to make football understandable for players or to make the really difficult parts of football easy to relate, that's what makes him such a good coach. And that was something I hadn't really heard people like express until I got into reporting it. And so that was kind of cool. Yes, he's smart. Yes, he read encyclopedias as a kid growing up, which I thought was hilarious. But it was more like, as a coach, this is what makes him so successful, aside from the recruiting and all the other stuff, is like he can take something that is really complicated and condense it down and tell it to a 18, 20-year-old kid in a way that's understandable. And so that was kind of a cool realization to come to. And you're right. He's a lot more than maybe people who knew him only as a player would think, or that just don't know him very well would think.
All right. We've taken away a half hour of your nap time. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Anything for you guys.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to promote the story and get people to read it because it's outstanding. And,
well, I appreciate you. You've always been very good to me. You know that. I appreciate you guys having me on, let me talking about it. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to write. It probably got delayed a couple weeks. I was working on this in spring football and hoping to like time it to the end of spring football, and my daughter showed up 10 days early. kind of threw it all off. And you know who was very understanding of that was Michelle, Gino's wife. Well, I had to like postpone one of the interviews with her or something, and she was like, "Totally get it. I understand."
At least she didn't have you do bear yoga,
bar yoga,
whatever it's called.
it's hell. It's a nightmare, whatever it's called.
It's called hell. It's called hell yoga.
Yes. I just want to go on the record saying that I love you too, and you can put that in your story as well.
It's good to have you back, man. We all missed you.
Thank you.
Everything good? Everybody
Everything's
good? Everybody healthy?
As good as it can be.
All right. You're not quarantined in your basement or anything?
No, we're getting there.
Good.
I'm now learning that like with 3 kids, the chances of everyone being, having no running noses or everyone being healthy, it's getting slimmer and slimmer. So
yeah.
Can't wait.
Where are we at, Aaron? How far away are we?
We're about 2 months.
That's why you don't.
The Billy Madison.
That's why you don't
stay
have
as
more
long
numbers.
as you can.
That's why you don't have more kids than you have parents, dumbasses. All right, Ryan Royer for 2.5 hours, Justin Williams for half an hour. You won't find a better 3 hours of content anywhere on the internet covering UC, unless you're reading Justin Williams' 4,000-word article.
Which might take you 3 hours as well.
That was the joke. I'm glad you got it, Aaron. That's going to wrap it up. He's Justin Williams. Thanks, as always, brother. Love you to death. We'll see you tomorrow. It's the Nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!